Here we are. The most anticipated game of all time has been released. And from what I've heard across just about everything, this is this is the best Call of Duty game since Modern Warfare. The first one. In all aspects. At least at the moment. And granted, I've managed to finish the campaign, and I got enough matches in multiplayer to definitely have my foot in the water. But the most important thing I think to talk about today, right now, is the campaign. And why? Because Call of Duty, end all be all, has mostly been criticized about the campaign, how unabashedly linear on just how scripted and on how little impact you actually have when you're just sort of running along on a chain shooting stuff. And while it's difficult to try to break from the mold, Black Ops 2 certainly does its own to stand out and be new and unique. And that starts from quite literally the beginning. The very first mission you go on, you choose your loadout. Not kidding. You customize your weapons, you customize your perks, you customize your grenades, you modify everything. Which is great. Very simple. Very good change. A lot of games need to do this. This allows the player to feel like they have more choice. This is something that's going to be very key throughout the rest of this overview of the campaign. Is that your choice matters. What else is there that's new and shiny? Challenges. What's the point of challenges? Well, there's stuff like get this amount of headshots, get this amount of knife kills, get this amount of sword kills. You get your hands on the sword at one point, and it's fun. That's part of another new thing called the tactical kit, which allows you to access stuff which you wouldn't have before, like strobe grenades, which can call down airstrikes, which are also fun. But the challenges, and getting lots of headshots, and getting lots of sword kills, and saving drones, and saving people, finding intel, good old Call of Duty intel, is all related back to a score system, which is in its own right competitive with your friends on a leaderboard, which is kind of cool in that sense. Now, granted, Ghost Reach and Future Soldier kind of did this, but it feels more refined in Call of Duty. It feels more straightforward and simple. So I can't complain. Now can I? Now, when I say choice has an impact, which is something that hasn't ever been in a Call of Duty game except for the very end of the American campaign in World at War. You know what I'm talking about? Then you've played World at War. If you have not, then at the end of the American campaign in Japan, or in the Japanese controlled areas, I suppose, you are given a choice between shooting, or saving, I should say, your sergeant or another private. Very simple, organic. You do one or the other, and this is something that Call of Duty does, where if you don't make a choice, then one happens for you, one that's scripted and bound to happen. And these elements are much more common in Black Ops 2. Quite literally, almost every level has sort of this organic choice, which ends up flowing into a scripted sequence. To the point where you will end up impacting the campaign. Because I made choice A in level 3, level 7 is different. Because this character survived, these 3 characters died. These 3 characters, which could have changed the outcome of how the game ends. And I can only assume the game has multiple styles of the same ending, because that seems to be what it is. It doesn't seem to be this sort of open-ended, ambiguous end. I think it has one end with a lot of little variables, which it sticks with Call of Duty and it's this sort of linear storytelling, but it's a linear branching path system, which might seem kind of stupid when you think about it, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Because you're following along the same story, it's just in this story there are multiple paths to get to the end. Sort of like a choose your own adventure book, but without branching out. I know it doesn't make any sense, but when you play it, it makes sense. Kinda. That's rough to explain, but I guess it's a game that should be played. And I could not go without talking about probably my favorite addition to the game, Strike Force missions. I love these encounters. These are severe departures from the traditional Call of Duty. Here's start, go to finish. Here's a map. And they're multiplayer maps, I think. At least one of them I've played has already turned into a multiplayer map, which felt very good. Multiplayer maps, I like them so far. Multiplayer should be for later. Here is this map that you have to work with. And you have an objective, but it changes for every Strike Force mission. It isn't always defend these 3 points, and if these points get destroyed, fall back to this main point and defend in there. The first one's that, but the second one is, alright, now you're going around, you're planting these capture devices, and then signaling a missile to destroy the ship. And then another one is, make sure you survive this time and get to this ship to execute this high-value target. And these Strike Force missions actually change depending on how you did in the campaign. It's more organic choice that they've injected in Call of Duty, and it feels so right. For example, I didn't manage to stop this dude from kidnapping this woman, but this next Strike Force mission was modified, and I could extract her as a high-value target. Which was great. And it was different because I had to check each of these houses and see which one she was in. Of course, she was in the last one. Not surprising. That's how games work these days. You can't get away from it, can you? But me being the smart Call of Duty gamer, wow, that doesn't sound right, does it? I open up my tactical map and shows this one's furthest, this one's further, this one's further, this one's further, this one's further, this one's closest, that one's the last one. And at one point I ended up taking control of my own high-value target and escorting her out of there, which was kind of cool. And this campaign is full of these, wow, that's pretty cool, moments. Typically they're very big set-piece moments, but something that Treyarch always done well, in my opinion, is the menu. Which I know sounds kind of weird, but I always talk about the little things. And in the menu, when you're choosing your loadout, you see your little dude with a little wrist computer, and he's tapping buttons according to what you're doing. Small, simple, perfect. And again, another very little thing, the little loading thing, is a little Treyarch symbol with a little swooping thing. And if you play multiplayer and you're the only person so far in the game with a bunch of people searching, it's a flowing progression of orange. I like it. I think the campaign and how it tells its story, which is a very powerful story that allusions to America's own self-indulgent nature, sort of a Grand Theft Auto sort of satire-ish thing, but it does it not so much ham-fistedly, but more, this is the worst end of the spectrum insofar as what happens. The gameplay it's still Call of Duty, but it feels better, I guess, because each little engagement feels more unique. And every single mission, they introduce new little tools, new little tricks, which is something Call of Duty needs very badly for 5 years. They haven't really had anything new, anything shiny, anything worth bragging about. To be honest, Treyarch, you have something to brag about with this game. I said design documents are going to be rewritten because of Spartan Ops in Halo 4. Design documents are going to be rewritten because of Strike Force missions. Those things work, and they feel great. Personally, my experience with the campaign has been overwhelmingly positive. I have some little niggling things about, if you don't do this exact thing kind of perfectly, maybe you end up dying. But maybe that's just me. I guess probably on my second playthrough I'll end up doing a lot better because I'll know what's coming out. But otherwise, I feel very strongly that this is the right step for Call of Duty to take, which just doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. But I still like it. Maybe that's just me. A lot of the internet probably still hates Call of Duty for being Call of Duty, and I can't blame them. However, as a longtime gamer, I should say this to you. If you had lost faith in Call of Duty, this is the game to put your faith back into. However, I am finished. This is a very long video because I have a lot to talk about, not surprisingly. I'm not going to do a video on zombies or multiplayer quite yet. Tomorrow and Thursday will probably be more regular-ish content because I want to get a more concise feel for them, especially the multiplayer. It's progression, so you need to put some time into that. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see all of you later.